I miss when World of Warcraft was just a game to me. In fact, I missed when most games were just games. I was reminded of this last night while playing Quest 64, an old Nintendo 64 game. There's barely any direction, there's no objectives, and there's a ton of rooms and corridors and hallways that just lead nowhere. It annoyed me at first. I would say stuff like, why would the developers put that there if it has no purpose? Or I'd say something like, that's bad game design. But then I did some reflection. There was a day before good game design, when games weren't designed to keep you engaged, or keep your dopamine levels high, or give you constant breadcrumb rewards. There was a day when they were just games, to play without purpose just for fun, almost like playing pretend when you were a kid. So why—
Dude, honestly, we've been playing Demon Souls lately. By the way, if you missed out on the Demon Souls playthroughs, you can check out the VOD channel by typing !variety. And it really shows that like games were just made differently back then, man. Like, there's no map, there's no real objective with what you gotta do. You just gotta go out in the world and then do whatever you want. And it's honestly been a really, really fun experience playing, like the Demon Souls game. I've been loving it. It kind of, like, sets it a little bit into contrast, I guess, with how games used to be and how we used to, like, look at games, I suppose, as well.
Why did the developers put that empty hallway there? Well, because someone may just want to explore around for fun. How about that? Playing a game for the fun of it.
Yeah, the thing is, Demon Souls ain't even that old. I actually did realize that as well, Mufford. It's from 2009, which is only 40 years ago, right? So it's not that bad, but there's still a lot of changed in those 29 years.
I used to feel the same way about World of Warcraft. Nowadays, I care about item levels, I care about rating, I care about new content and the best talent builds and the top classes and the top specs and the next patch and the buffs and the nerfs. And even Blizzard seems to have adapted to this style of thinking, making every new zone and raid high octane and high priority in the storyline. There's no time anymore to just relax and play. But it wasn't always like this. When I first started playing World of Warcraft in 2006, I was a dwarf warrior and I had no clue what I was doing. But I did know one thing. I loved being engrossed in the world. I would
a big, massive world you can get lost in. But I think it's just different how people approach games now, especially with, like, you know, Twitch and YouTube and guides and everything everywhere. You almost feel like a fear of missing out, like FOMO, if you don't play it in certain ways, right?
Go into every building in Ironforge just to look around and think how cool it might be to just hang out here with friends and talk. Not questing, not leveling, not gearing, just hanging out in a cool secluded place in Ironforge talking about life. Same thing for this random building in Orgrimmar. I barely made it to level 20 on—
I mean, that's the inn. No, it's not the inn. It looks like the inn. I don't even know what this is.
In Orgrimmar. I barely made it to level 20 on that first character, but I probably explored most of the entire world map. And I can still remember the awe I felt when I accidentally stumbled into the burning steppes by walking through the broken gate in the north of Red Ridge Mountains, and suddenly I arrived in Fire and Brimstone. Seeing the blackened, smoky sky and the lava pouring from the mountains was amazing, and seeing the creatures and dragons that roamed the land made me excited to eventually come back and quest here. Which,
in a way, that's what made the Wetlands run so magical and so nostalgic to so many people. Because you go from, let's say, either Loch Modan or you go from Darkshore, and then you head into this really high-level zone out of nowhere with, like, these crocodiles and, like, you're dying, and, like, it's just a mystery, right? A lot of them are just copy-pasted assets. I mean, of course, that's you gotta fill up the city, right? But still,
I never did. Oops. But I do still remember that feeling, the wonder and the awe at every zone and every turn. And now I'm so familiar with every zone that I gotta admit I'm pretty killer at WoW GeoGuessr. So that begs the question, is this just a nostalgia thing? And I don't think so, as Classic WoW and Season of Discovery in particular still have their moments of invoking wonder in me more so than modern WoW. And I think
I think in a way, though, as much as I'm yapping about older games, and I agree with you, Ever the Odd One, is that I think we are kind of the problem. It's the way that, like, gamers approach games, not necessarily the games themselves, right? Because you can still get a lot of those games nowadays that are really, you know, very immersive and, like, you know, kind of takes you in, but people just play games differently now, right?
What it comes down to is the idea of a game being just that, a game. The process of not needing to follow an ideology of good game design, or retention practices, or meaningful progression systems, or balance. In the many empty buildings in each capital city, I feel the echoes of players and guilds that came before and probably hung out within their walls chatting in-game rather than using something like Discord to do voice chat. And even beyond the capital cities, there are empty vistas in areas of the game that some may consider useless or poorly designed that were really just there to add flavor for those who wanted it. And even endgame raids in classic WoW like Molten Core didn't feel as immediately pressing to complete as soon as you could. I mean, there wasn't always a world-ending catastrophe just on the other side if you didn't hurry up and progress through the raid. In modern WoW, there is a greater emphasis on the critical path and on progression for the sake of story, and in a sense, I get it. You have to keep the players engaged, you have to keep the stakeholders happy, and you need to constantly have high stakes. Unfortunately, Blizzard already crossed the border of highest stakes of all time with the Shadowlands expansion and the universe-ending Jailer. I mean,
that whole storyline was kind of dank, but I think it's kind of just because that's, in a way, what the players want. They want new content all the time, so like they kind of have to just give them that, right, in a way. Realize these little random spots too, though, people just play differently. Yeah, that's why I'm saying as well, I don't think this is a game problem with like retail WoW versus classic or older games versus newer games. I think it's just a lot of people have changed the way that they approach games nowadays compared to how they used to, right? Then the stakes drop to 0 in Dragonflight. I mean, I hope War Within's gonna be good in that regard, but yeah.
Can you create?
It took me 2 weeks to get to level 10 in 2006 when I was in high school. Bro, I remember getting lost as well in early zones when I was a child.
8 months of hate watching.
Rockarsarn, thank you for the 8 months, man. But I think it's just a different way of approaching games, and it's mostly on the players.
Another engaging story without putting the universe at stake again.
Yeah.
But that's just the point for me. I don't want another universe-ending, world-ending, or even continent-ending storyline.
No.
I want a lived-in world with smaller, more meaningful, bite-sized stories that are fun to explore. I don't want a fresh new continent where it feels like nobody's ever been there before. I want to feel as if I'm part of the world again, not the champion of Azeroth. I want to walk around and explore the corners of each zone and building, not for a reward or a secret, but for the fun of it. But the gaming landscape has changed. We don't need to talk using in-game chat anymore. Discord has a great interface, a bunch of communities, and it's easier than ever to voice chat with your friends.
Different world.
Back in the day, having a TeamSpeak or Vent server was a big deal, and having good enough internet to run that at the same time as playing World of Warcraft was an even bigger deal.
I really think this is very heavily nostalgia. It seems like he's kind of just reminiscing of the better times, right? You can still do all these things, though. You don't have to, like, you know, speed up the games and like always all the time go. You can play by yourself and have fun and, you know, get engrossed into the stories and the different things and different games as well. And you can also, like, same thing with the Demon Souls, man. I've been really enjoying it, just taking my time with it. It's nostalgia, but it's not nostalgia. Yeah, exactly. It's a weird situation with that, right? I don't play WoW for fun. I play to raid and I have loot drama. That's fair enough. That's completely okay as well.
Stereotypically nowadays, gamers are painted as these nitro-fueled, energy drink chugging, RGB lighting enthralled adult children. And to pander to that stereotype, we need flashy games that pack a punch, and better pack one quick before your captive audience chooses one of a million other games promising the same thing. But there's another catch. They're all promising the same thing.
Okay.
How awesome would it be to finally have a World of Warcraft expansion or experience with a slower pace, a chiller vibe, and some good old fun exploration?
Okay.
And no, I'm not talking about the cozy game genre, which, side note, it's probably growing fast because more people are wanting that type of vibe. But I don't want WoW to be a farming sim or an idle game. I would want the upcoming WoW expansions to feel like classic WoW and Season of Discovery in their pacing. Slowed down, less high stakes, less flashy lights, less progression systems, with more corners to explore, whether they're...
I really think that current WoW is just so different from that, though, at this point, that it's hard to deviate towards that direction now. It would have to be incredibly slow, right? SOD pacing slow. Yeah, SOD is kind of bing bang bong, right?
empty or not. I don't have a proposed solution, and I'm not saying by any means I hate World of Warcraft now or that I'm quitting retail. No, none of that. I just wanted to throw my hat and my feelings into the ring, and I'm sure some of you out there would feel the same.
Yeah.
I still like to just sit on the cliffs of Thunderbluff and look out on Mulgore. I still like to hear the music of Elwyn Forest and Stormwind as I'm strolling through.
Okay.
And sometimes, even as a heroic raider in Dragonflight, I still like to RP walk.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I hope that I'm not alone in saying I miss when games were games and we would play just for fun. Thanks for watching, and take care.
I do agree with the overall statement that he's saying, but I think a big part of the takeaway from it is that it's mostly just how players approach the games nowadays, right? It definitely is, and I suppose like the gaming companies, they kind of, you know, they give them kind of what the players want in a way. If they want a more fast-paced, like, you know, dopamine-filled thing, they give them that, right? So that's how it kind of works out. But I agree. I do agree with the overall statement, though. I think it's very, very true. It would be cool to have it a little bit more, you know, toned down in that regard, right? That'd be good. The best question Dragonflight was that one where you sit next to a dude looking over a cliff and listen to the story. Oh yeah, that's the dwarf. I remember the people talking a lot about that. I think we're all just grown up since then as well. I think it's a big problem with like FOMO and people wanting to like not miss out on content. I mean, a question I get literally all the time on stream is it too late to play? Am I missing out, right? Did I miss the train? And it's like so often I get that question because people are scared of like missing out, I guess. You know? The problem is that he thinks what he wants is the same as everybody else, and Blizzard don't understand what the players want. I don't know, I feel like they have a pretty decent understanding in terms of it. I think there's different versions of the game for different types of people, right? But it's mainly like a thing with how you should approach games as well, I guess.